Should we be worried about aspects of what happened last night at that Celtic friendly away to Queen's Park?
Some bits of it. I think that, as I said, it is about fitness, but also there was lots of elements of the first half that I wasn't happy with, especially with some of the guys that should understand the game better. So our pressing was nowhere near the level of what I would expect, and that's what we said at half time. And then the first 15 minutes, we pressed the game better than what we did in all of the 45 minutes. And then that continued the second half. So you expect some little mistakes and unfortunate things to happen in the game. But overall, you see we still have a long, long way to go in the pressing side of our game. But also some really pleasing moments in the game as well. And none more so second half. Young Francis Tully coming into the game, I thought I've only seen him really the last few days, and you can see he's a football player, and he does some wonderful things with the ball, and he has a natural instinct to get into the box. So I was really pleased for him in that final half hour. But overall, another good exercise, and it's just another step up from us from the other night.
Interesting. When you look at the game last night, the team that started that game, should have been a lot further ahead and should. It's like Brendan says, those players should have known better. Is it the fact that it's pre-season? I don't see. I find it strange that football players can go from such a high level and then just in a month of not playing football, just not be bothered and not be interested, and it's just pre-season and not put any effort in, and and that's not what the manager was looking for last night. And the players that were on the pitch last night are players that are in and around the first team squad and pushing for first team places. There was obviously the fact that young Daniel Kelly wasn't there, Nico Kuhn wasn't there, Norobski wasn't there, Gustav Lager-Belke wasn't there. Now you could say that two of them were out injured. That's £7 million worth of players out injured. Again, Nico Kuhn, he wasn't on the pitch. I think last night was all about giving the youngsters their chance, and the boys that are in and around the fringe of the first team, giving them their opportunity to shine and show that they deserve that place on the bench. Because I think there's a lot of players last night that were playing, questioning whether they should really be at Celtic. When it comes to the youth players, well, that's a different thing completely, because young Daniel Kelly, obviously he was much speculation yesterday when Fabrizio Romano, the Twitter transfer guru, whatever you want to call them, turned around and said the 2005 born talent Daniel Kelly could leave Celtic for a free agent in January. There is no agreement after Celtic proposal to the player. It could be one to watch as many European top clubs follow him, including Bayer Leverkusen. Celtic have rejected all approaches so far for young Daniel Kelly to leave the club. So they are still trying to get him. For me, I'm not too worried about Daniel Kelly being left out last night. The manager knows what he gets with Daniel Kelly. He played a couple of games towards the end of last season, hence the reason that he wasn't included. Last night was all about giving the young players that will not travel to America, giving them their opportunity, and Brendan Rodgers getting a chance to see them in a game of football. So don't be too worried about the fact that Daniel Kelly wasn't there last night. I think we should be more worried about the players that didn't perform last night in the first. What we can take from the last two games is the fact that Brendan Rodgers is using these two games as an opportunity to look at as much of the B team as possible, which is quite within his right to do. He needs to see these young players play in a competitive game, alongside some of the first team players, something that he can't really do during the season. So from that aspect, I think even Brendan Rodgers will be happy with how it turned out the second half last night.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the young players will always give you everything, and they stepped up from what they did against Ayr, because we wanted them to express themselves even more and show better personality and more personality, and they did that. And so really pleased in that aspect.
That's interesting that he's pleased with that aspect of the game, but he thought the first half, some of the players that are around the first team already didn't do as well as what they were expected. And you've got to say, Bosun Lawwell last night, what do you think of him? I thought, apart from one or two things that he did in the first half, he was caught out of position. He wasn't really defending. If he's going to be a central defensive midfield player, he needs to up his game slightly. I think the fact that he was talked up so much last season at Fleetwood Town, has it been all hype? Is it all hype? Is he more a central defender than anything? And what do you think about one player in particular that played in defence last night? Now, when you run through that team from last night, there is a lot of what you would class first team talent and players that are in and around the bench or on the field on a weekly basis. The team started off with Bain in goals, Tomoki Iwata, Welsh, Dane Murray, Kobayashi, Mohammed Bosun Lawwell, O'Reilly, Ohm, Yang, Johnson, and Kyogo. Now, you could say that's a strong team, but the way that the team played in the first half, you would never have thought, and I think the first half, the weak link in the midfield had to be, and I'm going to say it was Lawwell, although he did do one good thing in the second half. He done that diagonal cross for the O'Reilly goal. I thought that was an absolute cracker. But when you look at it, that was a strong team. And it's no wonder the manager said that the press in the first half was absolutely terrible. A lot of these players are thinking they should be first team players at Celtic. Right? You know, Mikey Johnson. Mikey Johnson sets up a couple of goals. Mikey Johnson shown he's kind of followed on from the form of last season. We know Mikey Johnson's limitations. Are we going to be going with Mikey Johnson? Welsh does what Welsh does. Bain, it's just Scott Bain. He's never first choice goalkeeper at Celtic, that's for sure. Tomoki Iwata. Dane Murray. Dane Murray, for me, a big lad. He played quite well. I thought he was calm and composed in that position beside Welsh. Could he become a better player? Is my question. Could Dane Murray become a better player than Stephen Welsh? And a lot of players are probably screaming at the screen just now, going, anyone could become a better player than Stephen Welsh. But Stephen Welsh is going to be in the team for a long time. He just signed that new contract last season. But I think Dane Murray should get a little bit of praise last night. I thought he did quite well. I think for me, he did a lot better than Lawwell. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think that's right? O'Reilly did okay, didn't press as much. Is his eyes thinking, is there a transfer coming in? But there was one omission that people aren't talking about, and it was Rio Hatate. Rio Hatate was nowhere to be seen last night also, and I'm taking that. Look, the players that didn't play last night, the manager knows what he gets from them. These are guys that started this game that think they should be first choice players at Celtic. So the manager gave them what he thought was his opportunity. And it's like, well, if you think that you're first choice, this team's going to have a good go. Go out and show and prove your dominance and show how good you are to dominate this first half. And then I'm going to wholesale change it the second half, and I'm going to get all the youth team on. But you need to set the standard, and they never set the standard. They never set it at all. And for us that did watch the game in full, it turned out to be quite a game at Queen's Park, the City Stadium. And if you watched the English game, you missed an absolute cracker, I've got to say. It was a goal fest. It was 6-4. I'm not going to look too much into that, because look back at the start of last season where we were in Japan. We got beat a game 6-4 in Japan also. And it turned out to be not a too bad season last season. Now, when it comes to Celtic transfer speculation, there's only one thing that we know for certain. Celtic have only made 2 concrete offers this summer, 2 official concrete offers that they've made offers for, and that is obviously the 2 players that we know from last season, Adam Ida and Paulo Bernardo. It has been suggested that the Paulo Bernardo one is about done and dusted. There is a little bit of work to do, obviously, with the Adam Ida one, but I think what's more concerning for us as Celtic fans is there's still nothing about a left back whatsoever. Nothing at all. And we're all sitting waiting on some Celtic transfer activity. So I think that the one shining light from last night has to be the Northern Irish teen that celebrated with his debut goal in the friendly. Yes, the manager did talk about young Francis Turley. He made his first senior appearance for Celtic last night, and he marked a special occasion as far as he's concerned with a goal. The Belfast teenager came on in the 63rd minute for Celtic in this pre-season game, and he found the net on the 72nd minute, and as Celtic won 6-4. No one predicted that in the score lines that we had last night on the live. And if you missed that, you should go back and watch the live towards the end and see some of the score lines that we did predict. There were a few people, to be fair, said that Celtic would maybe score 6, but nobody seen 6-4 coming. The former Glentoran midfielder Turley joined Celtic in 2022 when he signed a 3-year deal. He's obviously 2 years into that 3-year deal. The 18-year-old could be included in the under-19 Northern Ireland squad. Let's just hope he doesn't get the same abuse that what Neil Lennon got, just because he plays for Celtic. Anyway, that's enough for today. Tell me what you think about the game last night. Should you be worried about the game? Me, I'm not even worried about the game once whatsoever. I think what you need to now be looking at is the players that make the journey to America, because a lot of these players that have played in the last 2 games will be in the B team this season. They will not fly to America with the first team for obvious reasons, because the team that flies to America will be pretty much the team that is going to start the season. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Debate it out as always. And on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world.